All right. Welcome everyone to today's webinar. Before we get started, I just want to make sure that everyone can hear us. So if you would, please type yes in the chat box and also let us know where you're joining us from. There's a bit of a delay in between when we say things and when you hear them. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speaker today while you're typing into the chat box. My name is Pete Mitchell, and a few years ago, I was introduced to Debbie DeGroat. What really impressed me was how driven she was to see her clients succeed. You see, unlike some real estate coaches that have never been in the trenches and actually sold real estate, that's just not the case with Debbie. In fact, she got licensed in real estate when she turned 18, and over her sales career, she sold over 3,000 homes. So like most, it wasn't the easiest of transitions when she first got started in real estate. She, like everyone else, had a learning curve. But what made her different was her drive. She was driven to succeed. Within a few short years, she was doing over 150 transaction sides a year, and that was with no team. Now she coaches some of the top agents across North America, agents like Ernie Carswell from Beverly Hills. His client roster is a virtual who's who with clients like Fergie and Katy Perry. Another client is Boris Kolodov in Toronto, Canada, who is already successful, earning $750,000 a year. And with Debbie's help, he went on to make $1.5 million within his first year of working with her. Today, she's with us and she's going to share the community marketing system. Now, one more time, I just want to make sure that you can hear us. So if you would, go ahead and type yes and let us know where you're joining us from in the chat box. And if you have any technical issues throughout the webinar, this is a live webinar, usually the easiest and quickest way to fix that is to simply refresh your browser, and that should take care of that issue. So normally I monitor the chat box, but today I'll be working the slides, so we will try and save your questions until the end and address them then. And so Debbie, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Pete. And welcome, everyone. We are so excited to bring this to you today. And Pete and I are just going to do a kind of an interactive event here for you. So we'll have a lot of back and forth going on. Pete, I think you're going to take care of moving all the slides forward. Is that correct?
That's it. I've got the control this time.
All right, you're in control. Okay, so guys, as we get started here, you know, as Pete said, I came from a strong background of being an active real estate agent for many, many years. My husband, you know, 30 plus years, my daughter's in the business. So I really understand the pain of getting so excited about a marketing campaign. You know, you take a new farm or you're working an area, we all need more listings, and you put so much thought into this, and then you put that information out there and you get nothing, not a single call. And it's just so annoying, let alone, you know, the fact that we need those listings and we need that money. So a shocking fact that Pete and I are well aware of is that 80% of money agents spend on marketing is completely wasted on materials that produce nothing. So what we want to do on the webinar today is we're going to do a couple of things. One, we're going to help you reshape and rethink how you approach marketing. So whether that's marketing in a farm, to a database, to a community, whether that's on email, postcard, we need to help you think about how you should approach this and put your strategy together. Not the way that every other real estate agent in the desk next to you does, because guess what? Their marketing, for the most part, doesn't work well for them either. So we want to accomplish that. We want to give you some great ideas, some great new concepts of how to reach out into the community with things that you will be proud to talk about, things that you will feel good about. And we want you to be reaching out into the community for listings. Now, I get it that you guys are working with buyers, and that's perfectly fine. And yet we all know that to be a powerful agent, you really need to be a strong listing agent. And also, here's a shocking fact on the screen there for you. In the last 12 months, 50 million online buyer leads were sold to agents like you. Only 5 million converted to a commission check. Now, we all know what it's like to work these online leads. You know, I watch my daughter struggling with some of them. They are not the best quality. They are demanding, sometimes rude. They want to use you and throw you away. And while you can make some money from them, it really is much better to put your energy and focus into building a strong listing career. So you let the buyers fund your listing career. So for today's webinar, we're not going to talk anymore about buyers. Instead, we're going to talk about things that will help you attract listings, because when you have those great listings out there, then the super quality buyers, they come hunting for you. Now, also, what we're going to do at the end of this is, if you are excited, if you love what you're hearing, we will give you an opportunity to get involved in a way that is so unbelievably exciting. You're going to love it. And yet I want you to know that there is help for you, so that as we go through this webinar, if you're thinking, I love this stuff, but I don't understand, I don't know how to take it out into the field, we're going to give you those solutions and a way to get involved. So, Pete, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this. You know, Alan says we should introduce Alan, and I know we're going to in just a moment, but I'm going to have to bring his name up now as I talk about this. Alan Dalton came to me about, how long ago, Pete? Was it about 8 months ago or so?
Yeah, probably 8 months to a year ago.
Something like that, yeah. Alan came to me. He was referred to me by someone who I know well, Gino Blafari, who's the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway International. And he sent Alan in, and Alan brought this bag. It was like I think it was like a gym bag, right, Pete? And Alan started to lay out on the table all of these ideas that he had. But he's very passionate about these ideas, and here's why. Because you see, Alan is the former CEO of Realtor.com. Alan went into Realtor.com at the time when they were 5 cents a share, and by the time he left, he turned it around, it was $55 a share. So he has a lot of knowledge about things like Realtor.com, Zillow, and Trulia, etc. Alan came to me and he said, Debbie, here's what's happening. These disruptors, who in a sense have disrupted the market, right? Because they have now become that first point of contact for most of the buyers. In a sense, they kind of took the buyers away from you and sold them back to you. Well, guess what? Now they're going after the seller leads in a very strategic fashion. So Alan's passionate about the fact that we have to help you get in front of that. We have to help you get out into the community, build such a strong and lasting connection with the homeowners in that community, and develop a pipeline of possibilities, potentials, now sellers, future sellers, and maybe sellers, but people that are in that pipeline so that they come to you. They see you as the authority and the expert. Now, we also know, because I'm a coach, having coached over 60,000 individual private coaching calls in my coaching career, I know that most agents avoid prospecting. But it's not because they're lazy, and yeah, maybe a few are, but most just tell us, I don't know what to send, and then I don't know what to say, and I don't feel good about what I'm bringing out there, and therefore I feel bad when I ask for business. So I've found that as we help you understand what the consumers really want from you, and we give you the scripting and the messaging to take that out there, then you're going to be a lot more likely to prospect, a lot more willing to get out into the community. Okay, Pete, go ahead. Yes, most agents, shocking fact, do not have consistent systems to attract listings. Now, probably you guys each have a method or two where business comes to you. That could be a farm, that could be, you know, past clients that you work. And yet what we really believe you need is at least 3 to 5 good systems of bringing listings in so that you always have a pipeline of possibilities and prospects. Because let's face it, you may have a time when your farm is just not turning over. People are just not moving. Well, then we have to have other systems. Because as we said, working with buyers are just fine. And yet your great listings are going to attract those quality buyers. In fact, I'm sure you've noticed that often when you have a great listing, these quality buyers will actually call you. They'll call you and say, you know, I know there's going to be multiple bids. I want to work with you. Help me get the house. So listers are lasters, right? We've heard that for a reason. Well, you see a little background there of our office. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. It is my favorite quote. And I want you all to look at this today and say, I do believe that I can get out there into the community. I can fire up my methods of getting listings, and I can become a dominant listing agent in my market. Now, to even be really what I consider a listing agent, you should have at least 5 good listings at all times at a minimum. Okay, so Pete, let's move on so we can tell them how to do that. Oh, so Pete put this slide in here so you can see we really are a real estate family. There is my husband, Don, Eric on the right, Taylor on the left. The girls joined us a few months ago, and they are all utilizing all of the tools that we are going to share with you guys today. And in fact, just a little funny story about Taylor and Erica, because they're very competitive. They said to me, Mom, are you doing a webinar today? I said, yes, I am. They said, well, who are you talking to and how many? Because they're so excited and protective of these new tools that we've created that they didn't want me to share them with too many people. And on that thought, when Alan came to us with this idea, and Pete and Alan and I sat down together, we decided, we made a commitment that we were only going to offer this to 2% of the real estate population in any given market. So we want this to be special. All right, Pete, so let's move on. Pete, I'm going to let you take over here, and I really want them to understand why you're a partner in this project with Alan and I, and all of the tools that you bring to the table, because I really feel like a good portion of this webinar, guys, is Pete teaching you what he taught me, which is how to get out there and market yourself in the right way. So Pete, go ahead and give them just a little bit of background.
All right. Debbie. So I'm going to give you my background as we get going here. And just to kind of reiterate real quickly what our goal is for this webinar, we're going to give you some great tools over the rest of our time, which, by the way, when Debbie and I first presented this, it took us a whole day to present it. So we're going to do our best to shrink it down and fit it into the time that we've got set here. And then we will invite you to participate in our community marketing system, those of you that want to take advantage of that. And what really makes all of this different is we're not going to be teaching you theory. We're going to be giving you tools that actually work, that have been tested in the field. And so just a little bit about myself. I'm a 5-time author. My most recent book, What Everyone Ought to Know About Facebook Advertising, How You Too Can Generate Red Hot Leads in the Next 20 Minutes with Facebook. I'm responsible for some of the biggest product launches on the internet, and this includes Dan Kennedy and Chip Kessler's Making Them Believe home study course. For those of you who know who Dan Kennedy is, he's probably the biggest name in marketing, and I got tapped to do their product launch, which was really cool. I've been working with real estate agents since 2000, and of course the thing that I always have to remind my wife is I'm also a handsome devil. I always like to throw that in there. Now, over my career, I've done a lot of things right, but I've done even more things wrong. And after doing this for the last 10 years specifically, here's a few things that I've discovered. I've discovered that most real estate agents and brokers haven't clearly defined who their market is. Most haven't thought about what bait will get people to respond. Most don't have a clearly defined and carefully constructed follow-up sequence. Most don't know how to run effective ads that will bring them clients. And that's what we're going to be discussing in our time here today. I discovered this the hard and expensive way, trial and error. You get to cheat and you get the easy way. So the hard and expensive way, you copy what other agents are doing, not knowing if it's working. I want you to think about this for a second. Think about the last either mail piece you sent out or door knocker piece you leave behind. Maybe you had a newspaper ad or a magazine ad. How did you come up with what you were going to advertise? If you're like most agents, you probably looked at what everyone else was doing and you just made your version of that. You kind of copied it. The other hard and expensive way is this. We conduct what is called spur of the moment marketing. How this looks is if you just closed on a home and you got paid, and then you go, well, you know, I just got a paycheck here. What kind of marketing should I be doing? And it's spur of the moment. It's like, well, I've got this money, so I should do something. I don't know what I should do. And we just kind of pick basically whatever someone else in the office said, well, you know, this is what I'm doing. Or, you know, I heard this works really well. And it's just spur of the moment. There's no thought behind it. It's just, well, I've got this money, I should do something. And then the biggest hard and expensive hindrance to our marketing is not holding your marketing and advertising dollar accountable. And what I mean by that is in Debbie's business, because I'm Debbie's marketing guy, we literally track everything. We know from our Facebook ads, we know from our direct mail, we know from everything how many people or what it costs us to get someone into our funnel, how many people we have to get into our funnel to get them on a webinar, how many people we have to get on a webinar to get them to want to set up a time with one of our coaches, how many of those it takes us to close someone into being a client. We literally track everything, and by tracking it, we're able then to decide, okay, well, we're going to spend more money over here and we're going to cut out money that was going over there because it's not producing. Most agents don't do that. So I'm going to give you 3 secrets during my time here, and you're going to want to jot these down. Secret number 1, there's only 3 stages to the selling process. You need to know what stage you're in with each prospect and use the correct marketing/advertising piece that corresponds to the stage. I'm going to go deeper on that in a second. Secret number 2, proper follow-up will bring you riches. And secret number 3, become a celebrity in your market and the only logical choice to do business with, and you will dominate your area. So let's go deeper on these. So as I said, secret number 1 is there's only 3 stages to the selling process. You need to know what stage you're in and then use the right marketing pieces for that. So there's a couple of guys, great marketing geniuses really, Dean Jackson and Joe Polish, and they were the first ones that really put this together, and it just gelled when I heard them say it because they said it better than anyone else. The 3 stages are the before the sale, the during the sale, and after the sale. So how that looks in real estate, before the sale would be anyone in your, let's say we're going to take a geographic farm who's thinking about selling their home, but you don't know about it. All the way through when they finally raise their hand and first basically announce to the world, hey, I'm thinking about selling my home. That's the before stage. The during stage is once they've raised their hand and they say, I'm thinking about selling my home, at whatever that might look like, and we're going to talk about that more here in a second, all the way through the nurturing process to getting the listing to selling the home, and usually about 30 days after the home has sold. That's the during the sale phase. And then the after the sale picks up after that 30-day period after the home is sold. Those are the 3 stages. Now here's the problem. The reason why 80% of your marketing dollars have not been effective up until this point, it's because you were treating people as if they were all in the during the sale phase. When you're trying to generate leads, there's a very different way to do it, and that's because we're in the before the sale phase. So here's exactly what I mean. I did a search on the internet for typical real estate postcard, and this is what I pulled up. And then I went through and blocked out all of the personal information, because this is the typical real estate person's postcard. Right across the top, we've got this line, committed to assisting you with all of your real estate needs. Now think about that line. From your standpoint, this is your intent. I'm committed to assisting you with all your real estate needs. But let's look at this from the prospect's point of view. The prospect gets this postcard, and this is talking all about you and nothing about them. And a prospect is looking at this and they go, well, you're committed to assisting me with all my real estate needs? Well, of course you are. If I'm going to choose you as a realtor, you better be committed to that. I wouldn't take someone who wasn't. Right? So it's a totally different mindset when we're looking at it from the prospect's point of view. And then it goes right on down the line. You have my firm commitment that I'll work diligently to fulfill all of your real estate needs. My sincere goal is to offer you the best services possible. Let my knowledge work for you. Again, this is all about this gal. You have my commitment. I will work diligently. My sincere goal. Let my knowledge work for you. It's all about her and not about the prospect. And then she goes on to list all the areas that she works in. Residential, commercial, land, finding the right home, selling your current home, finding an investment property, assisting with relocation, providing information for market analysis. So basically what she's saying is, I can do it all. And what that's saying to the prospect is, you're literally no different than everyone else I've ever seen. So one of the things I always like to bring up is I am, to my core, a city boy, right? I'm not really an outdoorsman type person. I love to go to the mountains and things like that, but I kind of like staying in a cabin. That's just kind of the way that I am. Well, when I was growing up and going to college, I used to work at these summer camps, and these summer camps, we'd take the kids fishing, usually one day a week. Now, I dreaded catching the fish because I didn't want to actually touch a fish. The whole way that I grew up was, you get fish at a store, you don't get it from the lake, right? Because that requires touching them, and I don't want to touch dead fish. Well, here's the thing that I know about fishing. If you try to fish without any bait on the hook, you'll be very successful at not catching anything. And that's what this postcard is. There's literally no bait on this hook for a prospect. This is literally throwing a hook in the water with no bait on it, hoping someone's going to respond. It just doesn't work. And that's because we're trying to take the during the sale phase and apply it to the before the sale. And that's why it's not working. So what I kind of want you to do is I want you to think about, okay, what would be bait that would get my ideal prospect to bite? And I'm going to show you some examples here. So I was working with a broker, and he was going for buyers. I'm going to show you an example of a postcard that we use to attract buyers. We put out what I call an ugly postcard. I mean, there's nothing pretty about this. It doesn't have his face on there. Doesn't have anything nice on it. It does have his license number, which is required in our state. And of course, it says right there at the top, free consumer's guide to buying a home in Orange. If you're looking to get the inside scoop on buying a home in the city of Orange, and this will be the most important postcard that you read. Right now, this educational guide is being mailed out to the first 97 that respond. Plus, get free up-to-the-minute statistics based on the homes for sale and sold in Orange over the last 6 months in all price ranges. In this fact-filled guide, you'll discover, and then we've got a bunch of bullet points of what they're going to find in this guide. Now, when we sent this thing out, he gets leads. In fact, every time he gets leads. The first time he came to me and said, Pete, I've seen your stuff. I don't know that it's going to work. Excuse me. He goes, but I want to send out this postcard. And he gave me his postcard, and it was all about getting your home sold in 37 days. And he's like, really what I'm hitting on is I can get your home sold really quickly. And I think that's what people really want. And that's going to get me the hot people, right? Because they want to get their home sold really quick. And I'm looking at the postcard and I go, I'll be frank with you, I don't think it's going to work. But if you want to send it out, we'll send it out. We sent it out using the post office every door direct mail program. We sent it out to 1,500 homes, got 0 leads. So the next month, I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to send out my postcard. So let me show you my postcard. It was this one right here. Free February 2013 report on La Mirada house prices. If you're curious about what your La Mirada home might be worth, this will be an easy way for you to find out what homes like yours are selling for in today's market in this report. And then we've got all these bullet points. And then we've got a way for them to get the guide, which would give them a free recorded message they can call into and request it, or a unique website that they can go to and get that guide. We sent it out to the same 1,500 people. This time we got 18 responses, 18 leads. And the reason was we were using bait that someone who's thinking about selling their home would actually want to know. So one of the first things I want to know is, well, gosh, I wonder what my home is actually worth. Now, they haven't listed it with anyone yet. They're just in that before stage. They're thinking about it. You know, I'm thinking we might be moving, wonder what the home is worth. So we're trying to give them bait so we can get them to raise their hand, and then we can follow up with them appropriately. So let me show you some examples that we've actually put together in our consumer marketing system. This is a great piece that I love. If you've ever hired a lazy real estate agent, then you have to read this guide before you list your home. Most consumers have a bad experience with the real estate agent. And because of that, they don't go back to the person who sold them their last home. So if they're thinking about moving up, or if they're thinking about downsizing, if they're thinking about moving to another location, another area, they're a little bit gun shy about calling their last realtor, because they're looking at that and they're going, well, gosh, I don't know if this person is really going to help me get my home sold the right way. So we're going to try and go after those people right where they're at. So if you've ever hired a lazy real estate agent, then you have to read this guide before you list your home. This is another example. Hiring a lazy real estate agent leads to terrible, terrible things. So what we're doing with that is we're literally speaking to them if they've had a bad experience, saying, hey, if you've had a bad experience, get this consumer guide. And when they get that consumer guide, now they enter our, what I call a sales funnel. Now we've got them to raise their hand. Now they move from the before stage into the during stage. Here's another example. How to choose the right agent when selling your home who will net you the most money. That's one that we use a lot with people who are in a for sale by owner mindset. I also like to use that in an area where they might have higher priced homes. And so people are thinking, hey, I don't want to pay 6%. I wonder if I can get away with paying 4%. Well, if we approach those people and we say how to choose the right agent when selling your home that will net you the most money, we're speaking directly to what their goal is, which is I want to net the most money. 90% of home sellers don't know these tricks. The April 2016 home sellers are in for a big surprise. This is great for people who are thinking about downsizing. Don't get stuck with 2 mortgage payments. How to downsize the right way. A lot of people are in an area, like I live in an area where a lot of people will downsize. Once the kids are off to college, they might move to a smaller home. One of the big fears that they have is, I don't want to get stuck with 2 mortgage payments. So when we approach them and we say, don't get stuck with 2 mortgage payments, how to downsize the right way, we're immediately speaking to them in a way that they're going to respond. We've put the right bait on the hook to get them to raise their hand. Now you'll notice on all these postcards that I've just shown you, there haven't been pictures of agents. There haven't been, cool little slogans, call Pete and start packing. There hasn't been any of that. And the reason is I'm in the before stage. When I'm in the before stage, I don't want to do that. I just want to get them to raise their hand. So the question I always get from agents is, when do you start your brand advertising? When do you actually focus on that? And you do that when you're in the during stage. So once they've raised their hand, they've requested your consumer guide, now you can start the branding, because now you know who you're marketing to. You're getting them to raise their hand first, then you start to market to them in that way. So secret number 2, Proper follow-up will bring riches. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, most agents don't have a proper follow-up sequence. I was talking with an agent several months ago now, here locally. If you're a local agent to where we're at right now, you would probably know this person because they dominate. I know that he's doing mid-7 figures, him and his team. And so one of the questions I had for him when we first got it started, I said, okay, tell me about your current marketing strategies. Where are your leads coming from today? And he goes, well, I get most of my leads from Zillow, Trulia, and Realtor.com. And I started to laugh. And he goes, what do you find funny? And I go, what's funny to me is that almost every agent I talk to, they say they don't like the leads from those sources. And he just kind of smiles, and he gets this big smirk on his face, and he goes, I know. And I love that. He goes, the difference between us and them is we don't quit following up. When I first got started, I couldn't afford to waste money on leads, so I had to continue to follow up. He goes, we'll follow up for 1.5 years, maybe 2 years, and then that person's finally going to be ready, and we end up getting the sale. It's because of the follow-up. So as an example, one of the things that I am such a firm believer in, I use it in my own business, and I encourage my clients to use it in theirs, just as I'm encouraging you right now, is I have a physical print newsletter that gets mailed out via the post office every month to my past clients and my prospects. And that newsletter makes me more money than almost any other marketing that I do, because I'm building a relationship with people and I'm constantly staying in front of them with something other than a just listed or a just sold. I'm actually giving them interesting information, talking to them in a different way. It's a newsletter. I got a client one time who came to me. I didn't even know how he got into my list. We later discovered it's because he bought a book of mine and entered my sales funnel 2 years prior. And then 2 years later, he came to me and said, Pete, I need help with my marketing. I ended up making $10,540 because I continued to market to him after he bought a book from me and just stayed in my funnel from that. Just a couple of months ago, I closed a client that was worth $38,432 to me in commissions. And this is someone who entered my sales funnel 6 years ago. And I never quit marketing to them. And here's kind of the key on this. I probably spent, because in the first 90 days is when I market to people the heaviest. And that's what we train people in the community marketing system. You market to them the heaviest in the first 90 days to get those people who are really hot to convert. And then we put them on maintenance marketing is what I call it, where every month we're going to continue to market to them in different ways. And one of the key things we're going to be doing is using a newsletter. And we stay in front of those people. Now, I would have rather have had that person become a client 6 years ago, but I can't control their actions. I can only control mine. So because I stayed in front of them, I still ended up getting that commission. And here's the kicker. This happens for me between 3 and 6 times a year. I get an additional $60,000 to $120,000 a year because of people who are in my follow-up sequence. Now, because of that, I wish I had been more diligent with my follow-up at the beginning of my career, because I see now how much more profitable it is to me today. Now back then, back in the day, I was like, oh, I'm making plenty of money. If they don't want to buy or sell, whatever, I'm just going to go on to the next person. And maybe you have that same mindset or had that same mindset, but changing it will mean riches for your business, big time. Secret number 3, become a celebrity in your market and the only logical choice to do business with. So here's what I mean by that. You want to become a celebrity in your marketplace, and one of the best ways to do that is to become an author. Now here's the key. Usually when I tell people, hey, you want to become an author, if you want to become a celebrity, they go, well, I don't want to write a book, or I can't write a book, that's way too much. It doesn't have to be of a book. It can be of a consumer guide. So let me show you some of mine. You can see them right there on your screen. The first one there on the left is how to mail up to 152,143 promotional postcards every month without paying 1 red cent. And that includes postage, by the way. That, for me, is a lead bait. I'm able to put that out there when I'm fishing for clients, And I get the right clients who go, well, I want to know how to mail out promotional postcards without costing me any money. How do I do that? And they raise their hand and they enter my sales funnel. Now, if you look at that and you go, hey, man, that sounds like a really cool idea. I'd like to know that. Go ahead and type yes in the chat box if you'd like me to send you a copy of that. And if you type yes in the chat box, I will send one over to you after the webinar is over. Another example there is 95 revolutionary methods and tactics for transforming your advertising into powerful response magnets. Apply these secrets to dominate, dismember, and utterly destroy your competition, right? It's very, very my personality. Okay, great, Jennifer. I see you put yes in there. I'll make sure you get a copy of that. If you'd like to get a copy of that one, guys, go ahead and type yes into the chat box. 4 hot real estate marketing strategies that can flood your business with clients no matter what condition the economy is in. The quickest way I know to double your business income. Now think about it from a prospect's point of view. If someone is fishing with that kind of bait and they're trying to find a real estate professional who wants to up their game, that real estate professional is going to raise their hand and say, I want to know more about that. So how do you take this idea and how do you apply it to your business? Well, we've actually made it really simple in our community marketing system because we actually give you consumer guides that you get to put your name on as the author. Some of the examples are right here. A home seller's guide to selecting the right real estate agent to market your home. What every home seller should know before selling their home. Downsizing with distinction. The consumer's guide to enlarging your lifestyle through strategically, selectively, and sensitively moving to a smaller residence. Your real estate planning guide. The consumer's guide to real estate. There's only one reason why a home hasn't sold yet. Ineffective marketing. Is it better to rent or own a home? Facts to consider. How to convert from just selling your home to having it professionally marketed so that it sells faster and nets you more money. In fact, Debbie, I'm going to go ahead and bring you back in because I know you want to talk a little bit more about these in more depth because you and Alan are the ones that have really spearheaded these consumer guides.
Yeah, you know, it's been a journey. I should warn everyone. And I will say in advance, you know, you are all more than welcome to take these titles and create your own guides. You are more than welcome to do that. I will share with you, though, that Alan and I spend about 1,000 hours creating these guides, and Pete about 1,000 hours on the back end of everything else we've done here, because we wanted them to be really good. You know, as a prospector, I used to door knock and I called and I was out, you know, holding open houses. And I wish I would have had something like this. And it just didn't occur to us at that time. We didn't have a Pete Mitchell, you know, telling us what to do. So like many of you, you may have children entering the business. I wanted it to be a little more professional. I wanted it to be, I guess I'll use the word, a little easier for my daughters than it was for me. And so we came up with these guides, and Alan came to me with the concepts, and he said, these are the topics. These are the hot topics that consumers want to hear about. Because if we think about it, you know, data is easy. Back in the day, many of us sold real estate for many years. We were the keeper of, we had the keys to the kingdom of information, right? They had to go through us to find out what's available, what is their home worth. They don't have to do that anymore. And so then why do they need you? And I think sometimes that might even create a little doubt in your mind, like, you know, why am I different, or why do they need my services? They can go online and find a house. They can go online and price their home. But here's a thought. You could go to the bookstore today and you could buy a medical text on performing open heart surgery. But Pete and I don't want you operating on us, okay? Because where's all the years? Where's all of the experience? So what you really need to be for these people in your community is the expert, the advisor, the advocate, the consultant. So when you offer guides like this, and I want to be very clear, Pete will cover it more in a bit, you're not running around printing a bunch of guides, which, by the way, some of them are almost 30 pages long. They are a little book. you're not printing those and passing those out in a geographic farm. You're using the postcard messaging to invite the public to reach out to you, to raise their hand and say, I need that guide. So we want to know who we're targeting. Well, in this particular guide, we're targeting renters. Now, you could do this in an apartment complex. You could go into a geographic area, and for most of you, you can find the absentee owners, which means there's probably a renter in that property. You could also take the postcards with you to an open house and use them as a teaser to offer these guides that you can send them if they're interested, which of course then allows you to capture their information. Now, I want to explain something about these guides though. In the rent to own or in it, is it time to move up? You're not going to do a typical sales pitch. So in other words, you're not going to be in there saying, now is the time to buy, now is the time to move up. Not in these guides. In these guides, what you're doing is you're offering a very comprehensive tool for them to sit down, hopefully with you, right? Because that's the offer you're going to make, that they raise their hand, they ask for the guide, you set a time to bring the guide over and sit there with them as their consultant and help them strategize their next move. You know, what sparked this particular guide, I remember a few months back, even before Alan came into my office with this idea, in Inman, there was an article and it said that real estate agents for years have been saying, now is the time to move up. However, we don't tell them how to do that. And you know, that really struck me because I made that mistake plenty of times in my real estate career. Now is the time, move up, move up. Well, but I don't know how. How do I not own two houses? Do I sell first? Do I buy first? What's a bridge loan? Is this right for me to do this now? How do I make that decision? This is a phenomenal guide. And when you go sit there with them as their consultant and go through this guide, you will really help actually spark transactions. Because see, our job as a great salesperson is really not to force people into doing things they don't want to do, but to help them overcome their fear and hesitation to achieve those goals that they have in mind. So at your open house, you could have postcards for rent to own, you could have postcards for move up, you could have postcards for each of the guides. Whatever is interesting to them is going to be the one that they gravitate to. Then, of course, you can use these postcards. So let's take a look at downsizing with distinction. I happen to know when I started becoming a full-time coach, my husband took over my database of past clients. Now, some of these past clients are now at that point in their life where they're thinking about downsizing. But if you think about it, downsizing kind of is a little bit of a negative connotation, right? Like, you know, you're getting old and you're moving down. Well, yet there's so many cool things that people can do as they retire. So many great places that they can live. You know, I'll give you an example. A company brought me into Austin, Texas a few weeks ago. And some of you are familiar, maybe you're even joining us from Austin, with the Austonian, the super tall high-rise in the middle of downtown. Well, that is the epitome of downsizing with distinction. So as I was working out on the 48th floor, because the company got me a room, they have a few guest rooms there, the rest are all residences. And I'm working out on the 48th floor with this great view. There's some very sophisticated, polished, clearly pretty wealthy people, since the average unit is 1.8 to 7 million for the penthouse. And you could tell that they had all downsized into this property. Well, that's downsizing with distinction, whether it's a sexy high-rise or moving to a ranch or downsizing to a smaller property and buying a vacation home. So in this guide, you're really going to help those clients who are at that point in their life where they're trying to make the decision of how to enlarge their lifestyle by selectively moving to a smaller residence. This is actually one of our I would say, Pete, this is probably one of the most popular guides, but that's because the baby boomers who are in this mode are one of the biggest demographics that have ever existed in history as a, as a buying public or selling public. This is a huge group. And a lot of them are now at the point where they're thinking of downsizing. So then, guys, if we move on to this one, back in the day, I was given a few questions by my broker, and he said, if someone is doing a multiple interview situation, tell them to ask the agents these questions. And they were fine, but quite frankly, they were pretty basic. Like, how many years have you been in the business? Do you have MLS? I mean, they were really bad. They were so basic. The thought, however, was good. Because you see, often sellers will say, everybody's alike. All agents do pretty much the same things. Well, if that's their belief, then guess what? What's our point of differentiation in their mind? Commission? Well, we don't want to cut commission. We want to give away the hard-earned money that you make. So we have to have a lot of unique ways to really make you stand out. And in this home seller's guide, we ask some really great questions. So what we do is we prepare questions that the home seller can ask the agents that they're interviewing. Now, these questions are complex. They're fabulous, but they're difficult for the average agent to answer. So just to be sure that you would feel safe and you would have the right answers, we created the crib notes for our clients and our members of the community marketing system. Because when you go out there and you answer these questions, you are absolutely going to stand head and shoulders above the rest of the competitors. Now let's look at the one on the left there. The only reason why a home hasn't sold: ineffective marketing. This is an expired listing piece. Now here's why this one is so powerful. Let's be honest. Often a listing doesn't sell because it is overpriced. However, it isn't the only reason. It could be improper marketing. And marketing really is, when you think about it, part of the, or I should say price, when you think about it, really is part of the overall marketing strategy. Now, when I sold real estate full-time, I loved working expired listings. I was very good at it. 1 month, I in fact took 30 expired listings. Now, here's the thing though. I didn't get them on the phone or go to their door and say, hey, do you know why your house hasn't sold? It's overpriced. I didn't do that because guess what? They don't want to hear it. Now, they probably know the price has something to do with it. Maybe their agent told them that it did, but I need to get in front of that seller. I need to get to the table. And one of the ways to do that was to talk about, there are multiple factors that can cause a home not to sell. And most of those factors are linked and connected to ineffective marketing. So, Mr. Expired Listing, whether you're putting the home back on the market immediately or not, wouldn't you feel better if we examined all of the things that potentially could have caused your home not to sell? I have a great guide. Why don't I bring it over? Let's sit down and go through it together. Now, of course, you could mail. You could market this to the expireds if you chose to mail. There's a lot of different ways that you could get this tool out there. You could take it and door knock on their door with it. But this really addresses what they want to know. Why did the home not sell? What are you going to do for me that's different? And why should I choose you over going back with my previous agent or choosing someone else that's called me on the phone? Okay, then the one on the right is a for sale by owner guide. Now, this is about how to convert from just selling your home. So they've got their home on the market, they're trying to sell it, how to convert from that to having it professionally marketed so it sells faster and nets you more. See, agents will often come to me and say, I'm in a hot market. And the for sale by owners, they can put their home on the market and they can sell it pretty fast. So why do they need me? Well, guys, let's think about it. With a limited amount of resources and time that they have, without your experience or expertise, sure, they can maybe find a buyer. But are they going to be able to do the massive reach that you can to bring multiple buyers potentially to the table to possibly even start a bidding war? You know, I was talking to an agent on Saturday and they said they had 12 offers on a listing that they were hearing on Monday. Every one of those was over full price, non-contingent, big deposits. In other words, cream of the crop buyers. A for sale by owner is not going to be able to create that for themselves. And that is your way in. It's not your way in to tell them they're wrong or stupid or it won't work, but your way in is to talk about how exposure equals a greater price. Now, this tool is a little bit different. So let's just look at those that we just covered. Rent to own, downsize with distinction, move up, you know, the ineffective marketing, the expired, the for sale by owner piece. Those are prospecting tools. So you're going to use your postcards, you're going to use your scripts that we give you, you're going to get out into the community, offer those guides, and those are buyers and sellers saying, yes, raising their hand, I want to find out more about this, send me over the guide. This one, though, is different. This is probably not a guide that you're going to sit down with them and complete. This is almost like a gift to them, a professional gift. So in this guide, which is a very beefy guide, it encourages them to list their assets, to think about their future real estate strategies, you know, to really have a tool to understand and plan for their real estate future. Now, where this would really be fantastic is offering it as a resource to your farm, to your database. It would be great when you're out door knocking or again at open house to say, is this something you would like to have? Now you might be asking, okay, why though, if they're not ready to buy or sell, why do I care? Why would I put this guide in their hands? Well, of course, if it's people that you know in your farm, in your database, we want to showcase you as the expert, as the authority, that you're giving back to them with helpful tools because we want to keep that bond and relationship strong and we want to keep you top of mind. But what about the strangers you meet? Why would we offer them the guide? Well, you know, there are clients that we work with that have 5, 10, 15, even up to 20,000 people in their e-blast pipeline. Now, they've got them segregated, AAAs, A's, B's, but in their C group, these are people that they've met somewhere. They didn't say they were going to buy or sell. They didn't sell. They didn't say they'd work with that particular agent, but they got their contact information. One of the agents has 20,000 people that he e-blasts to every single week, and he's been doing it for years. It's free, it's easy, and it generates for him 7 to 9 come list me calls a month. And when these people call, he doesn't even know who they are, but they've been receiving the e-blast. Now, of course, if they're going to be AAA, A or B, we would be calling, we would be mailing, we'd be doing additional things. But just think about if everyone you had ever met in the course of your career, you had put into that group, sent them e-blasts. And one of the things you could offer is a real estate planning guide. Or you offer it somewhere else, they reach out, they get it, you put them in your e-blast system. Why not? Because see, what we've been taught to do in real estate is we've been taught to work with just the hottest and the best prospects. That's fine if you have enough of those. That's fine if you're not going to need prospects 60, 90, and 12 months from now. So that's why we want to use these guides to suck the community into, sounds a little negative, but it just popped into my mind, into your web. And then you keep them there and stay connected until they buy, they die, or they ask you to remove them. Okay, so now moving on from the guides. This one is really a door knocking tool. Neighbors know best. So this doesn't have a guide attached with it. This is for those of you who like to get out and knock around your listings. You like to invite the neighbors before open house, or you have a geographic area that you're working. See, we're in the age of reviews. We don't go anywhere as a family without my daughters yelping everything we do, right? Because that's just the era that we're in. Also, I know that sometimes neighbors will think that the agent who is listing a home in their community is trying to sell it too cheap. We've all been accused of that before, and it wasn't true, but that's what they think. Well, here we're going to shift that view. We're going to find a great way to get out and talk to these neighbors and have something fun to discuss when you're door knocking. So it's called our Neighbor Knows Best campaign. So if I were knocking on Pete's door, I would say, you know, I wanted to let you know that I have your neighbor's home listed. And my goal is to sell that property for the highest price we possibly can. And that homeowner gave me permission to ask you if you would be willing to share your feelings, your impressions of what you've enjoyed about living here in the community. Because you see, the prospective buyers place a really high value on the ratings and reviews. And who better to rate and review it than someone who lives here? So when you take a moment to help me with this, I'm going to use this to showcase in the marketing. It's going to cause the home to have more attention, to ultimately sell at a higher price, which helps us raise the value of your home. Now, my daughters have already been out in their geographic farm using this, and people love it. They stop, they talk to them, so you can fill it out while you're at the door. You can leave it with them and ask them to mail it in if you choose. But this is a door knocking tool, right, Pete? This is really how they should use this particular product.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's go on to our next piece. Pete, I'm going to let you run with this because this is your baby. And by the way, I have to share with all of the people listening that you set Taylor and Erica and Dawn up on the family photo event. They did it last Saturday at the park. They had a great turnout, and part of the fun was just grabbing people walking by, meeting new people. And Pete, they actually picked up a fantastic buyer who was a complete stranger walking her dog, grabbed her to take a picture. So I'll let you tell them about the events.
I love it. Well, thanks, Debbie. And I know that little bit of echo we get there, it's because Google's trying to figure out, okay, now Pete's talking again. But what we've done in the community marketing system is we've actually put together 4 separate event packages complete with everything that you need in order to put on some type of an event in your community. And we've given you 4 sample events. The reason why I like event marketing so much, it's because for me personally, I don't like to cold call. I would probably die if I had to door knock because I'm a redhead. I live in Southern California. I pretty much don't like the sun. So the thought of knocking on doors every day and being in the sun it does not appeal to me. What I had to learn how to do in my financial planning business, which is how I got started in marketing, was I had to learn how I could get in front of a lot of prospects all at once. And that's the beauty of doing event marketing. It's one-to-many selling. So we've put together 4 different events. This is just an example here of the family photo event. And what you do is you do this as a way to benefit your community, but we're absolutely going to be marketing to them all along the way. And we're going to find out from the people that attend this event who's thinking about selling their home, who's thinking about buying a home, who's thinking about being an investor in real estate, all those type of things. So there is a way to do it. And that's what we've done in the event marketing package. So we've actually put together an Excel calculator where you can put in there the date of your event, and it's going to populate out and tell you, okay, well then on this date, you need to recruit your photographer. Here's the email that you want to send to do that. On this date, you need to recruit a joint venture partner. Here's the email that you want to send to do that. On this date, you need to invite your database. Here's the email you're going to send. On this date, your joint venture partner is going to invite their database. Here's the email for them to send. We've literally made it paint by numbers, so it's that easy. And there's 4 main events that we've put together. The first is the family photo event, which Debbie was just telling you about, that her family just went through and did. The second event is what is called the pet portrait event. And that's because people are so avid about their animals. And if...
by the way, hey, Pete, by the way, on that thought,
yeah.
So they invited people who brought their family, but most of the people that they grabbed organically at the park, they were so thrilled to have the picture with the pet. So it was kind of a family pet event.
Right.
But before we move on, I want to share something that's kind of important for them to know. Again, going back to knowing your audience, you know, in the community marketing system, we encourage you that you choose the templates that match your audience. So you see the, you know, retirement age couple on the right, you're not going to send them the advertisement if you're marketing into a community where it's more that age or demographic. You're not going to send them the young family on the left. And I know it's not a perfect science, and there's going to be a mixture of demographic, age, cultures inside your neighborhoods, but you want to stack the deck, if you will, and try to go to the hot button of what would appeal, what graphic would appeal to the majority of the people, and customize it that way. And to Pete, can you just go through the copy there? Because see, this is an out of the box thing for them. They're so used to sending something out like this and on it saying, check a box if you want to sell your home, check a box if you want to buy your home. And they'll probably notice that this doesn't do that. And that might bother them, because it bothered me at first until you helped me understand how to market.
Yeah, so it just starts out, we've got a subhead at the very top. This absolutely no cost event is brought to you by Pete Mitchell Realty, and then any of your joint venture partners, photography by so-and-so. Get registered now before all the spots are taken. Get a family photo session and an 8x10 free. No strings attached, no further obligation, our date, registration, where it's going to be at. And then it goes into what we call a news style ad, Huntington Beach, California. So you notice it kind of looks like a newspaper. People don't read ads, they read news. That's why we do it, and it looks like this. We want them to actually read it. If you've been meaning to get your family portrait done but haven't had time to schedule it, then this is the most important thing that you'll read. My name is Taylor DeGroat with Realty One here in Orange County. My sister Erica and I are putting on this event. Real estate isn't one of those things that you typically think about until you're buying a home or you find yourself in a position that you need to sell your home. So instead of spending all kinds of money advertising to thousands of people that don't need our services in hopes of finding a few that will need our services, we decided to put on this event with our sponsor partners as a way of serving the community in the hopes that one day, when you need our service, we'll be the company you call. This event is completely free to you, though you might be interested in some of the photo packages our photographer is offering. Make sure to reserve your spot now. To schedule your personal sitting, please register at, and then we give them a website and a phone number to call, or a phone number to call. So what we're doing in that is we're addressing the big question, which is, what's the catch? Everyone wants to know what the catch is. So that's why we come out and we just basically say, because we're in real estate and we could either spend our money sending out a bunch of postcards, or we could put on this event, and every time you look at that photo, you're going to think of us. So when you are thinking about selling, you're going to call us. That makes sense to the consumer, and they get then what the catch is. And by also having that line in there, the event is completely free, though you might be interested in some of the packages our photographer is offering. That lets them know, okay, the event's free, I get a free 8x10, and then the photographer is going to have some packages. I can either choose to buy them or not buy them. That's cool. So now they're not like feeling any kind of pressure, like they're going to get had at some timeshare type event, right? Where, you know, I'm going to get the hard sell. What we've also done on this is we've made it so paint by numbers for you, the agent, that we give you the forms for them to fill out, which on the registration forms at the event, they can check off any of your consumer guides that they might want you to send to them. That's how you know what they're thinking about doing. We've also given you templated websites, so you can have a registration page set up immediately to send everyone to, so you can get them registered for your event. I mean, it really is a paint by number. And the pet portrait thing that you talked about, Debbie, that a lot of people loved being able to do that. People are avid about their pets. So here in California, where we're at, we've got a place called Dog Beach. And if I were doing a pet portrait event, I would do it at Dog Beach. And just like you had Taylor and Erica inviting people over, it would almost be the easiest thing in the world to get people, because that beach is literally loaded with people and their dogs. And you could also do it at a pet store like Petco or PetSmart. They love putting on events for the community that are around animals. And so you could actually do it there and get them to promote all of their clients. And if you're doing that in a geographic farm, then everyone that's coming to that is a potential client for you. And again, you're going to fish out of that for your clients. Another event that we've put together is what I call the Photo with Santa event. And we've basically given you all the tools so you could put on every Christmas a photo event with Santa. Then we've also given you the ability and all of the tools necessary to put on a real estate investors event. And that's one of my favorites, because Debbie and I have talked about this before. Last year in the United States, there were 7 million real estate investors. It doesn't mean they all bought. They could have been holding real estate and had it as a rental property, but there were 7 million investors. However, there were 38 million people in the United States that bought a course on how to invest in real estate. That's essentially 10% of America wanted to know how to invest in real estate. So if you put on an event for the community on investing in real estate, it's got to be one of the greatest ways to get in front of people who are going to buy multiple properties more often. And that's why we put it together for you, because to me, I'm looking at that going, this is an absolute gold mine. You've got to take advantage of it. So that's the event marketing stuff that we've put together.
Well, and so if we're coming, to this next slide here, this is such an interesting statistic that Alan shared with us, that 50% of Americans never move more than 20 miles from the community where they currently live, right? So when you're out in the community, whether you're door knocking, you're holding open house, you're networking because you're active in the community, you're calling, you're holding these types of events, there is literally leads and opportunity everywhere. And I know that here in Orange County, California, I hear often agents say, oh, it's been so tough, this year to pull the listings out of the market. It's just such a challenging time to get the listings. Well, in the last 12 months in Orange County, there were 105,000 listings taken. Now, wherever you are from, I would bet if you run the data on the listings taken in the last 12 years, there's plenty of them. So then why did you not get your fair share? And the odds are you're just not connecting with enough people. Now, you can spend a lot of money on a lot of stuff. You can do a lot of cold calling, or you can really start thinking more strategically about what do they actually want to hear from me? And it was funny, Pete, because Don's been in the business 30 plus years. And he came home from this event. And I have to admit, Don is a fairly high C personality. He doesn't love so much, that kind of thing, right? The meeting, greeting strangers, especially roping in strangers walking by organically to take the photo. But he came home and he said, it was really eye-opening. He said, I realized that, Debbie, all of these years, if we had just been doing more things like this, we would have met huge groups of people. And he said, so here we are inviting all these people, and some of that might turn into something, but then just one lady walking by is a great buyer that's going to buy immediately. In fact, her question was, how fast can I close on something? And Pete, you often talk about return, on your marketing dollar. And I think on this particular project, they split it with their lender, Andrew Sauce. I think they spent about $250, $300 each total for the whole day, everything, all the brochures, everything they did. And so the average commission, I think this lady's looking for a $650,000 home. So even if they only offer, the listing agent only offers 2.5 on the buyer side, that's a $16,250 commission. So they get their 250 covered and they make 16,000 bucks. Not bad.
So awesome.
Not bad for a day. So I got to tell you, you have a new raving fan in Dawn on events. And they're already planning their next one, which is going to be the 1031, the move up, the downsize, they're bringing in a CPA and doing something at the office on that.
Awesome. That's great.
So guys, as we go through this, I guess if I think about what I would like you to take away from it, that's hope. When I go home at night and my husband and my daughters are sitting in the family room waiting for me to walk in the door so they can get a little end of the day coaching, one of the things that I feel is important is to help them be strategic, to help them be cutting edge, and to also, though, make them feel good about what they do, because the real estate industry has some bad PR, as we all know. And yet I'm sure that most of you do your very best. You help people. You change their lives every day. So I would like to see you be appreciated for that, to be seen as relevant, to feel so confident that when you go out into that market and you're meeting and greeting people, you have things in your hand that they want. You have tools to offer them that they can't get by running a search online through Zillow, that you are their neighborhood consultant. Because if we can lock up those relationships, not only will you protect yourself and protect your future opportunity from the disruptors like Zillow and Realtor.com and Trulia that are going to try to take these seller relationships away, but you're also going to protect yourself from these sellers who want to do 3, 4, 5, 6 interviews because they're searching for something and they don't know what that is. Well, that's you. So I hope you can tell, Pete and I are really passionate about this. It could be because we're a little bit, what would be the word I'm looking for, Pete? Not exhausted, but dizzy, I don't know, from all the work that went into this launch. But I hope what you hear behind our voice is not a tone of hard sell you on this. Because remember, we're only going to open this to 2% of the real estate population. I hope instead what you hear is our passion for getting you to get out there in a high level way with the best tools and resources that you can. And let's start building that pipeline of great connections. So Pete, I'm gonna let you take it from here.
I think what we're gonna do is just kind of go over here and tell everyone a little bit about the community marketing system for those of you that would like to participate in this. The community marketing system is a 6-week training program with all of the materials that you're going to need for the next 33 years for your marketing. I'll explain to you exactly how we came up with that here in a second. So it's going to start next week. Now, calls are going to be on Mondays at noon, except for next week because of the holiday. That's going to be on Wednesday at noon, just for next week. But what we're going to do is week 1, we're going to focus on essential community real estate marketing foundations, how to clearly identify your target market, how to track all of your ads and things of that nature. Then in week 2, we're covering crafting the lead bait that's going to attract you the clients you want and repel the people you don't want. And really, that's where Debbie is going to take over on the consumer guides that have already been put together for you, how to use them properly. And I should also mention this, that in the community marketing system, not only are there 7 already done for you consumer guides, but Debbie has also put together a webinar going over how to use each one of the consumer guides. Then in week 3, it's about crafting the follow-up systems to close prospects to appointments and appointments to clients and clients to sales. And you should know that we actually do this in a very specific order, because what everybody wants is what we actually get into in week 4, which is where and how to advertise that'll bring you the right clients. That's when we give you all the postcards. And we've got 66 different postcards in 6 different designs, which are basically different backgrounds, things like that, which gives you 396 postcards. And if you used 1 a month, you'd have your marketing taken care of for the next 33 years. So you don't even have to think about, what am I going to be sending out this month? You already know on the lead generation side exactly what you're going to send out, and you've got it taken care of for you. But we don't want you using that until we've done the first week's material, which is clearly identified the market. For instance, I live in a little city called Rossmore. There's 2 types of people in Rossmore. There's the people who are moving up to Rossmore and the people who are downsizing out of Rossmore. It's not a first-time home buyer community. But the people in here have different age groups, there's different professions, and you've got to clearly identify, who am I trying to reach? So if I was going after Rossmore, I would want to clearly know who I was going after in Rossmore. We got to cover that in week 1. Then in week 2, you got to know, how do I use all those consumer guides I've been given? And then in week 3, you have to put into place all of your follow-up systems. So in week 3, that's when we give you, here's what you say on the phone, here's what you text message, those who don't answer the phone, here's what you email them, here's what you mail them, here's how often you mail them, this is exactly what you send with the consumer guide, here's what you put on the outside of the envelope, here's what you put on the inside of the envelope, literally that step by step. So in week 4, when we give you the actual lead generation tools, you've got everything in place already. Then in week 5, we go over how to turn your website into a lead machine that never stops working. And that's going to encompass both your, what I call your authority website, which is your main website you're using right now, and then how to set up a proper lead generation website, complete with templates for you, ready to go, for the community marketing system. Then in week 6, that's when we cover event marketing, so that you can do the whole selling many at one time thing, right? Where it's just one to many as opposed to one to one. And that's where we're going to give you the real estate investors seminar, the family photo event, the pet portrait event, the photo with Santa event, all of that stuff with all of the emails, the Excel calculators, the timeline, and the training on how to use it. The key on all of that is you just have to actually implement, and implement it the way we tell you to implement it. So who this has worked for? This has worked for high producing agents with teams. This has worked for high producing agents without teams. And this has worked for agents that need to compete against established agents. So if you've got a market where you look at it and you go, you know, the problem is there's this dominant agent, they get all the listings, they do all of the advertising in the area, everyone knows who they are. Those are actually some of my favorite places to go in, because they're not doing this type of marketing. And we're able to go right into those areas and suck out all of the leads. And when you do it like that, it's really good, because usually all the other agents have already been scared off by that major agent. Now, if you are that major agent and you add this to what you're already doing, then almost no one can come in there and take away your farm from you. So when we were putting this together, Debbie, Alan, and I, we all sat down. We thought, okay, we got 2 options. The first option, we can go as cheap as possible and try to sell as many people as possible. And the problem is, it doesn't really incentivize us to stack the value, and then you end up with a lot of competition who are using all of the same tools as you. So the second option was, we're going to require a little bit higher investment, but in exchange, we can devote more resources to guarantee your success. So here's what you get in the community marketing system. For 6 weeks, we have a training call. It says on Tuesday. That needs to be corrected. It should be on Monday, except for next week because of the holiday, in which case it'll be on Wednesday. Then what we also do is we do an open line Q&A call each Friday. And we take all of the questions that have been emailed to us throughout the week, as well as everyone who's live on the call, and you can ask anything you want about the program or about marketing in general or something you've been looking at, and we go into those. Now, those are usually hosted by me, and Debbie is usually on it for the first half hour or so, and I'm usually on it for a full hour, or in some cases it'll be just Debbie, but most of the time that's the way that those work. And then we've also got unlimited email support. You can email us any question you've got during the 6 weeks on all of your marketing or sales type questions, and we're going to address those usually the same business day. We record and we give you transcripts of everything, the Q&A calls, the training calls, everything. So if you're a reader and you're like, hey, I can't make this call, we're going to give you the transcript along with the recording so you can listen to it later if you can't make it live. It says over 50 lead generation postcards because when we first put this together, that's all we had. Then we added a bunch more, so now we're up to 397 with all the different design options, or I should say 396. 7 consumer guides ready to go, including the corresponding webinar recordings on how to use the consumer guides, all the follow-up emails, letters, and text messages. And then we've given you a special website with access to all of these marketing resources. The total value for this is $34,497. And then as our first bonus, I put together that whole event marketing package that we told you about. Over 150 emails, 4 events, the event marketing calendar, website templates with what's called lead pages. That's the system where you can get the website template. All of that, we're going to include that with your community marketing system, so that way you've got it. Also, we're going to give you Debbie's 6 ways people are persuaded audio. So again, just to recap on this, we've got the 6 weeks of training calls, the 6 weeks of Q&A calls, the unlimited email support, the recordings and the transcripts of all the training calls, all the lead generation postcards for the next 33 years. You've got your marketing set aside and done. 7 consumer guides. What we should also add in here, Debbie, is the Neighbor Knows Best program. That's also included.
Exactly.
The follow-up emails, the letters, the text messages, the website access to the community marketing system. So here's what you've got to ask yourself. If all this program did was gave you the tools so you never had to wonder about what marketing pieces you needed to put out, would that be worth it to you? If it revealed to you what marketing strategies you're spending money on right now that aren't working, would that be worth it to you? If it helped you bring in 1 extra transaction each year, if that's all it did, would it be worth it to you? So you got to ask yourself, what's 1 transaction side worth to you? What's 1 sale worth? You know, depending on where you're at in the country, it's going to be all over the place. Could be 2,000, could be 20,000. So how much would you pay to ensure you can get an extra listing every year? If you were to hire out me or my team, Debbie, her team, Alan, his team, and you wanted to put together your own community marketing system with everything in here, it would cost you more than the average agent spends on marketing in their entire lifetime. Basically, it wouldn't be possible to do it in most situations because that's how much money it would cost to hire us to do that for you. That's why we've put it together in this package. And again, it's got all of this included with it. The 2 calls each week, the unlimited email supports, the recordings, the transcripts, the lead generation postcards, the consumer guides ready to go, the follow-up emails, letters, and text messages, and the access on our private website. So it would cost you $34,497. If you were hiring me personally to do it, that's what it would cost you to have me do this for you. And that's why you can see it's a good deal at $2,997. But we've got a special, just as you would expect off of a webinar like this. And the investment, if you get signed up today, is only $19.97. And how you're going to do that, I'm actually going to try and do this without screwing up the webinar. So hopefully what you'll see on the side of your screen is the offer. Are you seeing that come up on the side of your screen, Debbie?
I'm not. I'm just saying the 1997 today.
Yeah, it could be. It's either my system here or I'm trying to refresh this page. Oh, okay, there. Now it should be up there. I'm gonna set it one more time.
Okay, I don't see it yet. You.
It may not actually show up on yours because you're listed as a host. But what we've done is, if you were to go on our website, you're going to see it's listed on Debbie's website, I should say, for $2,997. We've automatically put in the discount for the $1,997, and that's going to be active just for the next half hour. So if you want to get started, you're going to have to do that in the next half hour. The training is going to start next week. And we've also given you some payment options if you're like, hey, I want to do this, but I'd kind of like to be able to spread those up. All you got to do is click on that Add to Cart button there on the side, or head on over to communitymarketingsystems.com and click the Add to Cart button there, and you will see that for the next half hour. So again, real quick, you're getting the 6 weekly training calls, the 6 weekly Q&A calls, the unlimited email support, the recordings and the transcripts of all of the calls, over 50 lead generation postcards with over 300 design options, 7 consumer guides ready to go, follow-up emails, letters, and text messages, website portal access for all of your community marketing resources, all of that for $1997. So Debbie, I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to add on there at the end, but
I just want to make sure that they do know, that does include your events package. And of course, right, and the special CD. And also, sometimes people will say, I want to do this, but I'm going to be on vacation. I know we've got the Memorial Day holiday, or kids might be getting out of school, or graduations. And I want everyone to remember, everything we do is recorded and posted for you on the Special Community Marketing Systems website. And that includes a Community Marketing Systems business plan, so that you can sit down and figure out exactly what you want to tackle. And I know it's a lot, and yet what's the beauty of this is you will have ongoing access to the website and the tools. You will be now part of the community, and truly those Friday Ask a Coach calls, they're like mini marketing masterminds. I mean, we talk about all sorts of things. How, what should I be doing for SEO? Should I do that? What about this? What about that? And Pete just whips through that left and right, and truly will educate you and save you money in ways that go far beyond the program. So even if you have to travel and you might miss the start date, we will have everything waiting there for you. And Pete, I think we allow them at least 2 or 3 different payment options, right? So that they can spread this out. I wouldn't want to leave anyone out who's interested in participating. That's correct. They've got payment options. All they got to do is click the link and head right on over, and they can choose whatever works in their budget. Well, we really want to thank you all for participating today, and I hope your great takeaway is that you're probably wasting money on your marketing, but that's okay, because so are all the other agents who are in the market next to you, and yet now you know what you can do to make some changes that will actually work. So we look forward to welcoming you in, and we hope you all have a great holiday. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.